Welcome to the Sunday preview for this week. We have a reading from St. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 18. It says, Peter approached Jesus and asked him, Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive? As many as 7 times? And Jesus said, I say to you, not 7 times, but 77 times. That is why the kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who decided to settle accounts with his servants. When he began the accounting, a debtor was brought before him who owed him a huge amount. Since he had no way of paying it back, his masters ordered him to be sold along with his wife, his children, and all his property in payment of the debt. And at that, the servant fell down and did him homage and said, Be patient with me, I will pay you back in full. Moved with compassion, the master of that servant let him go and forgave the loan. When the servant had left, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him a much smaller amount. He seized him and started to choke him, demanding, Pay back what you owe. Falling to his knees, his fellow servant begged him, Be patient with me and I will pay you back. But he refused. Instead, he had the fellow servant put in prison until he paid back the debt. Now his fellow servants saw what had happened and they were deeply disturbed. They went to the master and reported the whole affair. His master summoned him and said, You wicked servant, I forgave you your entire debt because you begged me. Should you not have had pity on your fellow servant as I had pity on you? Then in anger, the master handed him over to the torturers until he should pay back the whole debt. So will my heavenly Father do to you, unless each of you forgives your brother from his heart. I remember reading a story about a seminarian who was, during the persecution of the church, was taken prisoner by some anti-Catholic group, and they split him open down the middle of his body and poured in gasoline and set him on fire. And as he was burning up, he cried out to God, Father, forgive them. And among the saints and the martyrs, we see a lot of those beautiful stories of extraordinary forgiveness. And when people pray for their persecutors, just like Jesus did on the cross, where he said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. But just as hard is to forgive repeatedly over and over when we're called to forgive all the daily things that happen to us. We all like to think that in an extraordinary moment of persecution, we would forgive our persecutors. But it's the daily things that are so hard for us to forgive. It's like a pebble in your shoe that, doesn't ease up unless you get it out. But I think Jesus' parable here reminds us that there's no real healing or peace unless there's real forgiveness. Sometimes we think we can just avoid the person or cut them out of our lives and we'll be fine. But the only way to real interior peace is by heroic forgiveness, whether that's for something extraordinary and huge or whether it's the repeated offenses that are the small things every day. That kind of interior peace only comes when we forgive and we allow that relationship to heal. And just like any healing on our body, sometimes there's still a scar. The scar doesn't always go away. The scar can stay there as a reminder to us that we were really wounded and cut and hurt. And yet the healing that comes with that scar makes us whole. So if Christianity is about anything, it's about the ability to forgive over and over again. 7 times, 70 times if it's necessary.